everybody. So the day is finally here. I'm finally bringing you my Disney Canon project review of Ralph Breaks the Internet. This is the 57th film from Disney Animated Studios, and it's, of course, one of the rare sequels that they have done in the studio, and to the first Wreck-It Ralph. Now, I think that it's important in understanding my opinion about this movie to go over my feelings about Wreck-It Ralph, which you can watch the Disney Canon Project review of Wreck-It Ralph, and you can see my thoughts there. But just for a little recap, I wasn't a big fan of Wreck-It Ralph. I think it's fine. I think it's harmless, but I definitely feel it is the most overrated of any of the Disney Canon films. My problem with the original Wreck-It Ralph is I felt like it didn't fulfill the promise it makes in the opening section of the movie, where you see this train station going to all these different worlds, and you have that therapy session with all these different characters, and then you never really see any of those worlds, and you never really see any of those characters. And you end up spending almost the whole time in Sugar Rush, which I thought was pretty bland, was pretty generic. And I thought the story was something that was pretty bland and pretty generic and wasn't something that really excited me or that I felt connected to. And I know many people did, and I think that's great. But for me, it was a little bit dry and I just didn't connect with Vanellope as a character. And I just thought it was pedestrian as the movie. I didn't think it was special, and maybe that's just because I'm not a gamer. I don't know, but it didn't really do anything for me. So obviously hearing they were doing a sequel, I was concerned. However, I always try to go into any movie with an open mind, and so I went in to see Ralph Breaks the Internet, and to my surprise, I really enjoyed it. I think it is a better movie than the original film in almost every way. I know a lot of people disagree with me, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But in my opinion, I felt like the movie had more character growth, was more interesting, and actually fulfilled the promise that it set out at the beginning of the film, because they promised to show us the internet, which I was initially very skeptical of, and then they actually do it. They actually show us the whole world of the internet, and to me that was really fun and really satisfying. And the thing I was very concerned of was the princesses, because we got a clip at D23 of the princesses scene, and I was very concerned about that at the time, because I felt like, oh, it's just going to be parody. It's not going to be a part of the story. But to my surprise, I really enjoyed the princess scene. I thought this movie was very funny. I thought it was very clever, and I think that Ralph and Vanellope were pushed to a place in their relationship that was interesting and that you don't always see, particularly in films for children, but in films at all. They were asked to confront different parts of themselves that I think was more interesting than the somewhat routine character growth that I saw in the first film. And so it was a more subtle and nuanced message. Ralph and Vanellope are friends, and they love each other, but that doesn't mean they are the same. Vanellope yearns for newness and a chance to get out of Sugar Rush. On the other hand, Ralph likes things to stay the same, day in and day out. This is a conflict I can easily relate to, as I am a same stuff kind of girl. I could eat the same things every day, I could wear the same clothes, do the same activities each day, and be perfectly fine. And so sometimes it can be a little bit difficult for me to relate to people that need that kind of spontaneity and actually can find that somewhat stressful. And so I really related to this dynamic between how Vanellope views the world and how Ralph views the world. And I think that's sometimes the hardest thing in life, is to love someone and love them in spite of their differences, or maybe even love them because of their differences, and to not kind of want them to change and want them to be different. I think that's something that's very hard. And I think it's such a great message for kids to accept people the way that they are and support them, even if it means them maybe going away from you, and, like Vanellope ends up doing, and is moving away from Ralph. That's a really, really grown-up message, and I appreciated it. And at first, Vanellope and Ralph deny these differences for a long time, not wanting to hurt the other's feelings. Then a crisis happens in Vanellope's game that forces them to go online to try and buy a steering wheel on eBay. This pushes them to acknowledge their differences and learn to love each other in a new way. The biggest worry going into the movie was about the humor. And my worry was that the jokes would be parody and not part of the story. But to my pleasure, almost every joke is story based, whether it is Spamly or Knows More giving them directions, or the princesses helping Vanellope with her conflict with Ralph. The humor was all part of moving the characters forward as opposed to just throwaway parody jokes. While I still don't love the kidnapped and enslaved joke in the princess scene, most of the other humor worked for me. I was particularly happy to see Ariel be lovingly showcased. She is kind of the leader of the girls and got most of the best laughs in the princess scene. So, of course, I'm going to love that because I love Ariel. I also loved the relaxed princess shirts that you had in the princess scene. I thought that was so funny and such a cool way of kind of updating the characters that made sense. And then I also loved the Alan Menken song. That was a big surprise that I wasn't expecting in a place called Slaughter Race. And it just really brought back that nostalgia that you have with princess movies and, of course, with Alan Menken and Disney. So I thought that was such a fun little surprise to have. I also really enjoyed the scenes in Slaughter Race. The racing sequences were incredibly animated. The speed, the movement, it really, really worked. You kind of can see maybe they were inspired by some of the racing sequences that they were working on over at Pixar with Cars 3. And just the movement and the joy that you saw on Vanellope's face when she is racing the way that she wants to race, which she can't do in her game. And I thought that Gal Gadot did a good job playing the leader Shank, and I bought her bond with Vanellope. I thought it was really sweet, and it's a different kind of relationship than what she has with Ralph. And so I could see why she would be so tempted to make this place her new home. And I thought that the whole group in Slaughterhouse kind of reminded me of the ruffians and thugs from Tangled, rough on the outside, but sweet on the inside. And as she experiences this freer style of racing, Vanellope realizes this is where she belongs, but she knows it will hurt Ralph to admit this. This is a conflict I can relate to, and that most people have experienced as they try to navigate long-term friendships. Long-term friendships are difficult and they take work to maintain. That's for sure. While Vanellope is in Slaughter Race, Ralph gets an education on YouTube. And, a lot of people have complained about, oh, this is going to be so outdated in just a couple of years. And I think we probably have the most case in these YouTube scenes. And you have this character, Yes, who is an algorithm, and she gives Ralph a lot of advice on don't read the comments and the different types of YouTube videos that you can make. And then Ralph kind of basically becomes a YouTuber making different videos. And I think that this, to me, wasn't as cynical as a movie like the Emoji Movie. Most of the time, the users playing the games were having a nice time or enjoying their time in whatever website they were in. So it wasn't this sense of sort of robot people like you got in the Emoji Movie with the teens like being incapable of doing anything. And as the internet site broke down, they were upset, but not overboard. And they could do other things besides communicating only on their phones like you had with the Emoji Movie. We also get the highs and lows that the medium offers and when it comes to YouTube. And that's certainly something that I related to, as I have been I've definitely gotten those highs. I've definitely gotten those lows. And Ralph gets very excited as his gimmicky but harmless videos make enough money to purchase the steering wheel, but then is hurt when he reads the comments and realizes he is a joke. Yes tells him to never read the comments. If anybody has been following my channel this year, you know that I can certainly relate to the toxic side of the internet that we see that Ralph goes through. I certainly related to this experience, and I think no matter how much the internet changes, that won't change. There's definitely going to be the positive side where you get to interact with people all over the world and you get to make friends and have positive experiences. I've had so many positive experiences, but that toxic side will always be there. So while the different YouTube phenomenons, maybe we'll move on from cat videos, maybe we'll move on from these kinds of things, and maybe some of that will change, but I don't think that the core of this discussion about toxicity versus this positive part of it, I don't think that that will change. And I thought that it was a very good way of portraying that hurt that sometimes you feel, and also that joy, the mixture that can happen when you are on YouTube. Of course, the making money thing is so easily is not real, but I was willing to suspend my disbelief as far as that part personally. And so then the ending of the movie, I know that it's somewhat divisive because Vanellope isn't supposed to leave her game. And I guess I felt like there's the Wi-Fi that is part of all of the games, so that connects them in a whole new way. And so she could be in the internet and still be kind of connected to her game, where that wasn't the case before. That'd be my only argument. I don't really care that much because I appreciated the emotional growth that the characters went through in the movie. So to me, it didn't really matter, but that would be my answer, is that now they have Wi-Fi, everything's connected, you can leave without it being as much of a problem. So we see that Ralph becomes a pretty unlikable character at the end. He becomes basically almost like this King Kong kind of character who is not allowing Vanellope to change. He becomes kind of a monster. And he is giving into his fears, and the virus he purchases magnifies those fears. And I'm somebody that can be very resistant to change, and it can make me maybe not the best person sometimes when I have those feelings. And I appreciated the fact that the characters in this film are flawed characters who grow and learn. And I think that's what you want from scripts. You want characters that change and are really challenged and grow. And I thought by the end, when he realizes through the help of the princesses, through the help of all these different characters we've come to know all along the way, he comes to see who Vanellope truly is. And I felt like the conflict was broken up enough by humor, like I said, with the princesses and some of the other characters, so that it worked for me. I thought that by the end, when they have truly learned to accept each other for who they are, and they have this new, deeper friendship, I found it moving and a lovely, lovely arc for both characters. I think that it really worked to see their sort of new, how they were still able to support each other and in their new environments and be happy for each other, even though it's not what Ralph would have planned if he got to plan it out. So it did take him to this dark place, but he learned from it. He grew, and I think that was great. So I have no problem with the ending. I thought the ending was really good, but I can understand people that really loved the original film and really loved those characters, that this was definitely big time character growth. So I get it. The animation was phenomenal, beautiful. Like I said, with the racing, I thought that was gorgeous. I thought that there were new settings that I hadn't really seen before, as opposed to Sugar Rush, which to me felt very generic. I liked that the atmosphere was continually changing, and so we weren't just kind of stuck in the same place for 45 minutes. I really thought that the voice work was wonderful. I like John C. Reilly as Ralph once again. Sarah Silverman, still not my favorite, but she's serviceable in this. I loved Gal Gadot. She was much better than I expected to be. I liked her character, but then I also liked her supporting voice work. And it was so much fun to have all of the princesses that are living, at least, all back voicing their roles. And it was also cool to hear at FanX here in Utah from Paige O'Hara that she had voiced out of Belle, but they brought her back, and how much that meant to her. So that made me really happy that they did that. Some may definitely wish for more time with Felix and Calhoun. And I think that that makes sense. They weren't in the movie that much, but I did think the parts that they were in were pretty funny. So I was satisfied with their role. I loved Ralph Breaks the Internet. It spoke to me more than the original. It had a more nuanced and powerful message. I got to see more character growth for both Vanellope and Ralph. It was a lot funnier, and the animation, in my opinion, was better, particularly the racing scenes. It even had a princess song that was a big surprise that I really enjoyed. And I don't know. I wish that every sequel took the kind of risks that this sequel did, and I wish that there was a real attempt to try to do something different and something that really pushed the characters to these spots that they did. And in my opinion, they succeeded. But it's definitely a risky film. It's definitely a different film than the first one. So I can understand why it's not for everybody. But that's my thoughts. I really enjoyed it. And so there you go. Let me know what you think about Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it. So let me know what you thought about Ralph Breaks the Internet, what side you end on. So thanks so much. And please subscribe to my channel. I love doing these videos and I love talking animation and Disney. And so I'd love your thoughts. And please consider becoming a patron to the channel. We have so much fun. We have giveaways that are available, sometimes for Disney films, other stuff. And it's only $2 a month to join, $5 for our Facebook group. So check out that all in the description section. And thanks again. And we will talk to you all later. Bye.